I am so happy to be here tonight. I'm here with Frank. It's the first night of your tour, Cake, right. And I've Seen Everything tour.
That's right.
And how long have you been preparing for this tour? Like, when did this idea come into fruition?
At the end of the last tour, which was called All Night with the Trashcans, that was the three of us playing acoustically together for the first time, really, just the three of us. And we really enjoyed it. So the sort of theme around that for that tour was we tried to play every song over the tour that we'd ever written. And we didn't quite manage it, but we nearly got there. So after that tour finished, we wanted to come up with another idea. So we thought our first album's too short to just do a sort of tour around it. So we did our first two albums. So tonight's the first night. So hopefully by the end of the tour, we won't be like completely sick of the same set. Usually we, you know, change things around, but sure. So it'll be interesting to see how sick we get of everything.
But you've taken a break. You've obviously made several albums since the early 90s.
Yeah, six of them.
A lot of your dates are sold out, so you're going to get a lot of hardcore fans out there. They sold out very quickly, many of your nights. How do you prepare, like just physically, mentally, how do you prepare for a tour of this nature, 6 weeks?
Yeah, let's you sort of try not to let it overwhelm you too much. You know, it's hard to leave home. You know, I think when we were younger, it was like there was a bit more gung-ho attitude towards getting away, but now we're all like families and we like being at home now, so it's hard to be away from home. That's the hardest bit, but you try not to let things overwhelm you. As I say, just try and keep it in perspective, and once you get into it, it's almost, you know, the dread of it or the anticipation heightens all your feelings towards it, you know, the fear and the excitement, and once you get into the swing of it after a couple of days, it's, you know, it kicks in. You got to be careful with your voice, obviously. Yeah. Some of the partying that we used to do doesn't go on the late nights or stuff, you know. So we're pretty teetotal, but not quite. So yeah, so we just you know, take it easy, as anybody will tell you. You know, look after ourselves. Yeah. So you mentioned that you like being at home. Obviously, you guys have settled down. Remind me, your home. I know. Do you guys live on the west coast of the U.S.? Why do I think? Yes, a couple of us live in the west coast. Paul lives up in Washington State, and I live in Pasadena. John's in Glasgow.
So one of you has kept the Scottish roots there.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Oh, Pasadena's a great city.
It is. It's nice. Yeah. I don't see anywhere else really in Los Angeles that I can afford that I like. You know, it's pretty. It's a nice little town. You know, it's got a town feel about it, which is kind of a godsend when you're used to that. You know. Yeah. I've been there 10 years now.
That's
I like
nice.
it. Yeah.
After a tour, do you decompress? I heard the other day that Bono goes into a decompression apartment, like for a week.
Yeah, I think that's because his wife can't stand him after it. He's no, that's why I read that she's like, he's too like big, you know. Yeah. Of course.
Is he still like in the kitchen, like posing?
Yeah, exactly. Whoa, he's got the white flag up and everything when he's wanting his breakfast. So I don't know. So for us, so I mean, we're not quite. It's not that different. In fact, we go the opposite way. I think what we try and do, because it suits us, and it's not very rock and roll really, but over the years we've tried to normalise stage work as much as we can, because when we started it, you know, there was an impetus to put on a show in a sort of way. It's in the back of your head that you're rocking and rolling. Yeah. And with the three of us, it's the most natural state for us. That's how we write songs, that's how we started, and we just try and be, you know, just try and like keep that area between being off stage and being at home and being on stage as, you know, just as little difference as possible. Just be natural, you know. Right. So that's taken quite a while, you know. I know that it's, for some people it comes natural to be natural, and some of the guys like John and Paul, I think, are quite natural. They've always been the same, but I'm kind of relaxing a bit now. So so when we come off tour, we don't really feel like we have to, you know, wave the flags or anything or decompress. So, but it's just great to go home. Yeah, it's great to go and you know, see the cat and all that stuff. You know, see the wife and the cat and just.
And sleep in your own bed.
sleep in your own bed, watch Columbo over and over, all that stuff. Yeah,
of course, yes. Pour your own tea, your own kettle,
all of that stuff. Yeah, yeah. Nice. See the neighbours.
Yeah. Taking it back a little bit to the 90s, how did Cake come about? Just a little bit of background. Like, you guys had been together, I think, for about 3 years or so, 3 or 4 years before releasing the album. Had you been working for 3 or 4 years towards that album, or like 6 months before that, you just went into a studio and you said, okay, let's write a whole bunch of new material?
No, much the former. It was really everything that we'd collected that was kind of half decent, and then I think there was a couple of songs that we kind of made up quite quickly, especially in the B-side department, and yeah, but it was quite a long process. We were very. I think it was kind of my fault, really. I was quite controlling at the time and of the sound, because I engineered our demos and stuff, so I had fancy ideas that I knew what I was doing in the studio, and I didn't. So we messed up a few, sessions with producers, and eventually found John Leckie, and that was sort of the sweet spot for us, really. And we did it with him, and he really beefed up. We gathered together most of the recordings we'd made already, and he just got us to like enhance them and mix them properly. It gave us a little bit more of a roughed up kind of thing, because Obscurity Knocks, for instance, was quite tame. That's what we couldn't seem to get the kind of vivacity of it over, but he was really helpful that way. So it was a lesson learned. So it was one of those situations you hear about all the time where the band have got no songs left after they've recorded the first album. So that's kind of why it took us 3 years to do the next one.
Okay, so again, 90s question. I'm hoping you can help me with this, and maybe you're going to have to play like psychoanalyst here. So it's hard for me to think of some of my favorite bands, Blur, Oasis, and the Stone Roses, without actually thinking about you guys as well, even though your sound is not really like theirs. And if you compare Blur, Oasis, and the Stone Roses, they don't even sound like each other. Right. What do you think is happening there, other than the obviously British connection?
Why do you make the connection?
Yeah, I have no idea. I was hoping that maybe you could help me solve. Every time somebody says, oh, I love Blur or I love Oasis, I always say, go back and check out the Trashcan Sinatras if they hadn't heard of you. But again, your sound is really not like theirs.
I would consider it very different. I don't know why you think that. I mean, I'm glad maybe you heard us first or something, and it sort of originated there, and then your love for guitar music. Right. And I think the bands that you mentioned are all melodic. So there's a kind of sense of melody that might be kind of pulling at your ear that reminds you of us, because Blur can certainly be really melodic and idiosyncratic, a bit like ourselves. So we've got 3-4 songwriters, so we're always a little kind of up and down, and our music I always think is a little bit more idiosyncratic than others. But I think there are definite connections between like melodic 60s sort of influence,
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, Oasis has that strong connection to like the Beatles, and Noel Gallagher has a very Paul McCartney, Lennon-esque type of writing.
Right, and we know who Liam is, so
that's exactly true. You're exactly right.
So it works out. But I think Blur are a bit more kind of kinksy and kind of interesting, and to me anyway. But I like a good bit of Oasis rocking out as well.
Yeah, of course. Things have changed a lot in 30 years. What do you think are some of the advantages of being a musician now, even for even yourself, or maybe some up-and-coming bands, or disadvantages?
It's definitely, whenever I talk to people who are like my age and we speak about this, there's always a double-edged thing that we end up at the same place. Well, it's good and it's bad, this democracy of kind of distribution, But yeah, it's. I would hate to be starting out. I think I wouldn't mind trying being, 21 again, but I would hate to be starting out with a band. It seems very different to me, but that's the way it's supposed to be when you're, a generation or two out from those starting out. But the scrollability of everything now is like we obviously have to kind of interface with the modern music business a wee bit. Using Facebook and all that, and it's kind of exhausting, You like always have to it lasts a day, and you can tell like shit, we've got to kind of pin it to the top, and all this stuff. It just can be a little alien to us, and I'd hate to be trying to get a name for yourself. I don't know how people do it, because when we started there was a scene, you know, like the Irvine scene where we grew up, and there was like 10, 20 bands with their own, with its own generational structure. Where there was the ones who were like 3 or 4 years older who had been in bands, and the ones starting out like us, and we all met each other, and we all spurred each other on, sometimes through you wanted to impress these other people that you thought were cool, and we swapped members, and you settle into the lineups that you like. Nowadays it's, and you couldn't go anywhere until you'd impressed there. That was the beginning of everything. And nowadays it seems you just make your demo and you put it on, or you make your record and you put it, and you expect the whole world to hear it instantly. So I don't know where the scene is. The internet, I suppose, is the scene, right? I mean, where's the scene in rock or pop since Seattle? You know, there hasn't really been one, you know, and I don't think there will be anymore, because people are not, you know, it doesn't have the same community feel, music, I don't think.
Yeah, especially when record stores, you can barely find a record store now. Magazines, NME just closed their doors.
And that was a real telling thing, I think, too. I mean, obviously a lot of people have spoken about that. I mean, the NME and the Melody Maker and the Sounds and the Record Mirror, they really, you know, they treated you like an adult when you were like 18, and you know, and you were assuming that you were interested in other things as well, like art and politics and books, you know, and poetry. They'd really kind of like pushed poets at you and writers, and it was real kind of serious. We're all in this together, and music's really, you know, as valid as something that you might consider higher art, you know. And it's a real shame that that was a real community. You know, it was telling to see how everybody reacted. Who was like 40 and above, you know, they were very like, you know, that was something you went down on Wednesday morning to get. And I remember still, like, if you were in London, if you happened to be in London, you could maybe get it on Tuesday night, and it was really exciting, and it had a lot of influence, you know. We were single of the week, and it was really great for us, and they can make or break, and sometimes both, you know. Yeah.
I get the sense that songs are made to just be hit singles rather than an actual album. Would you rather be known for a really great song if you were to isolate, or would you rather be known as putting together a really strong, cohesive album?
For us, it's always been about squeezing out what we can and making the best record we can at that moment, and trying not to fall into any kind of formula, and being open to trying different things. And sometimes things sound kind of like, oh, that's got a mass kind of appeal type vibe to it, and then you hope that for that, you know. But certainly we don't make just that. I mean, we've always thought in terms of albums, but within those albums, we've always got an eye out, you know, for something that might. I think it comes from being on a major label too in our early days. So we got a lot of advantages from that, you know, them kind of like pushing singles, and we're still seeing the benefits of it now, because we're meeting people who knew us back then. So again, starting out now, we're kind of lucky. We can use the internet to be a wee cottage industry, but we are basically using what the major label push did for us, you know. So.
And do you man your social media, or do you have someone to help you out a little bit with the Twitter and the Instagram and the Facebook?
Yeah, we have a guy, who gets infuriated with the fans, but but we chime in quite a lot. Okay. Yeah. We're the friendly ones. He's the unfriendly one. You can always tell.
You can tell. And I have followed you a little bit. I'm also not really too big into. I'm trying to get back into Twitter, and I am on Facebook a little bit. So
sometimes you have to put it down and go away. I mean, Twitter can be a real mind suck, you know, and it can be pretty stressful these days too.
Plus the algorithms that Twitter and Facebook now have. I mean, it will really.
Yeah, now it's super creepy as well. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Okay, let's get into non-creepy questions. Just a couple more to wrap this up here. Kind of a fun question. What's one thing that you own that you should probably throw away, but you never will?
Certainly a lot of clothes, but I probably will throw them away. What have I got? My mother's clothes, my dead mother's clothes. No, I'm only kidding. One thing that I own that I wouldn't throw away, but I probably should.
Probably should.
I don't know. I've still got a few kind of really bad pieces of jewellery, like that I used to get away with when I could play, when I was, you know, 25, 30, I could get get away with that now. I can't. I look silly. It just looks daft on me.
Okay, so 6 weeks from now, you'll finish up this tour, roughly. You'll be heading back to Pasadena. But if you could just get away, book a plane ticket anywhere in the world, take your family or not, where would you go?
I would go to Scotland, you know, of course. I mean, I miss it so much, and I love being in Pasadena, and I love being in my home. I've been there 10 years now, but I really miss Scotland, so I would go.
Yeah.
Probably I'd be the boring answer. I'd go to I'd go to the Highlands, the West Highland Islands of Scotland, maybe Islay or Mull or one of those places. Just they're so beautiful, you know. Have you been?
I have never, but I have to tell you, Scotland is number one. I have a feeling, I don't know if you believe in reincarnation, past lives, I really feel I was Scottish in a previous life, and so that's my top destination. Actually, I was planning a trip for June, and I asked a friend, is June a good time to go to Scotland? And he said, Scotland is always best in Spain, was his answer.
In spring?
In Spain.
In Spain?
So he said, just fly over to Spain.
I don't know. It depends what you like. I think Scotland's, when it is summery, it's the most beautiful place in the world. You know, it's just amazing. But you know, the cities are great too. The cities are wonderful. Glasgow and Edinburgh are very different. You can get around between the two very easily. And yeah.
Would you recommend June?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
Oh, you'll see the solstice. I mean, it'll be light until 10:30 at night. It'll be fabulous. Yeah.
I actually want to go to Glasgow, but that'll have to be next year.
Right. Glastonbury, well, there you go. That'll cost you.
Okay, last couple of questions so we can wrap it up. Do you want to play a little game? Okay.
Absolutely.
I am going to give you a pair of words, this or that, and you just have to tell me which one you gravitate towards. Okay. The first one, sunset or sunrise?
Sunset.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Cats or dogs?
Cats.
Text message or phone call?
Text message.
Reading or writing?
Reading.
Sweet or salty?
Sweet.
Fiji or Iceland?
Iceland.
Well, thank you very much, Frank. I really appreciate your time, and I'm very much looking forward to the show.
Yeah, San Diego's great. I know San Diego quite well.
Yeah.
I used to come here quite often. So yeah, it's always good coming back.
Well, it's a pleasure, and I'm really looking forward to all the wonderful music. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Sylvia.